Hello everyone, Ravi here, and today I want to show you something that I personally find very useful in Microsoft Fabric, that is Dataflow Gen2. Now, if you have worked with Power BI or Power Query before, you are going to feel very comfortable with this, but there is some difference. Instead of using Power Query only to prepare data for a report, we can use Dataflow Gen2 as part of our data engineering and ingestion process in Fabric. So let's imagine I have a sales files or order file coming to my business. The file is not perfect. I have duplicate customer. I have some column name which are not standard. I may have various issue with those file. There are missing values, and maybe business wants only the sales for a particular region. So rather than writing a lot of code, I am going to show you how I can do this visually using Dataflow Gen2 with very low level UI based changes. And at the end, we'll take one step further and put the data flow in the Fabric pipeline. So let's see in detail. So where does Dataflow Gen2 fit? Before I open Fabric, let's understand where Dataflow Gen2 fits. In a typical Fabric solution, I might have different ways of moving and processing data. For example, I can use a copy job in Fabric when my primary requirement is move the data. I can use a pipeline when I want to orchestrate multiple activity within the Fabric. Or I can even use a notebook when I need a code-based transformation. And then comes the Dataflow Gen2, which is very useful when you want a visual low code transformation experience. That's where I love Dataflow Gen2. And if my transformation is something like, for example, filter the data, rename columns, maybe merge to database or merge to dataset, create calculated columns, maybe aggregate data. So there could be various scenario. I do not need to write any Spark code for this. I can simply use Power Query experience I am familiar with. So that's what I'm going to use. Microsoft described Dataflow Gen2 is a low code Power Query based transformation option, while Notebook, if you see, is a code first alternative. So that is the main difference between these two. Okay. So now we'll see how to create the data flow. So creating is very easy. When you'll go to Fabric, you go to your workspace and then you'll go click on the new items and you choose Dataflow Gen2. And this is going to open the Power Query experience. If you used Power Query in Power BI or maybe in Excel, this interface is more or less very similar. And that is why even I am very comfortable using the Dataflow Gen2. I don't have to learn any new transformation language. Everything is visual based. So I can use the similar concept like queries, steps, filter, merges, columns and transformation. Okay. So now we'll see how to connect to the source to pull the data. Okay. So it's very easy. You'll go to the source in your workspace. You'll select get data. Depending on your project, this could be a file, this could be a database, lakehouse or any other supported connector you can pull data from. For today's example, I'm going to pull a sales or order file from a file. I will connect to it as a table and pull the data I want. And this is where I want you to think like a data engineer. Okay. Don't immediately, start transforming everything. First ask, what is the source? What does the data look like? What is the business requirement? And very important, what should be the final output look like? Once you understand this, then you can start building transformation step. Fabric Data Factory provides a range of connector, and Dataflow Gen2 experience can let you choose to get data from a range of data sources. It could be your CSV, Excel, SQL, Lakehouse, SharePoint. Even there are hundreds of other connectors from where you can pull the data from. Now, the most interesting part, which I love most, is to clean the data. Now, let's say I have the data, maybe I have customer ID, customer name, region, sales amount and order date. But I can see some problem. For example, region may contain inconsistent values, I may have duplicate record, so I need to clean this. So first I will remove all the unnecessary columns. So what I will do, I will use the Dataflow Gen2 options. Now there could be some other scenario also. You may need to rename columns, or the data is not up to your organizational naming standard. Data may be in different format. So I need to clean various columns, and then I need to standardize region, and then I need to remove the duplicate also, and for all of them I'm going to use the Dataflow Gen2. Okay, so if someone asks me like 6 months later, Ravi, what exactly happened to this data, I can walk through the transformation step, because each transformation will act as a step. That is much easier to understand than having a huge piece of custom code which is doing the same thing as a cleanup of data. Okay, so Microsoft highlights common Dataflow Gen2 transformations such as filtering, deriving columns, aggregating and merging queries. Okay, so now what we'll see in the next step is how to merge or implement the business logic. Now let's say my business gives me another table, and this one contains regional information, maybe like for example, in India, Pune is west, Mumbai is west, Delhi is north and Bangalore is south. I do not need to write a complicated SQL statement just to bring this information together. What I can do is I can merge query. I will join the sales data with the region lookup, and then I will create the third column. Okay, so this is something I use quite often conceptually in various data projects. You don't just ingest data, you shape it into something that business can normally uses. So now once you have transformed the data, you are not finished. You need to decide where should this output goes, and that is where Dataflow Gen2 data destination is very important. I can send the output to a Fabric Lakehouse or a warehouse. There are other supported destination which you can also use. Okay, so in this example I will show you the Lakehouse, but you can have a different output where you can store the transformed data. Okay, but remember, the important point is Dataflow Gen2 is not only about manipulating data, it's about building a reusable or repeatable process that takes data from a source, transform it, and then writes the result somewhere at the destination like Lakehouse or warehouse. Microsoft document multiple Dataflow Gen2 destination, including Fabric Lakehouse, as I told you, Lakehouse, Files, Fabric, Warehouse, Azure SQL, KQL, and there are other destination also which you can select. Okay, now you have selected your destination. What could be the next step? You need to think about it. You need to publish the data flow. Creating a data flow is not the same as executing it once and forgetting about it. In a real project, think it about it as a refresh process. Okay, maybe the sales data arrives every morning, maybe after every hour, maybe I only need to process it once a day. So you need to automate this process, and this is exactly the Fabric pipelines comes into the picture. So what you will do, you have a data flow and then you have a pipeline, and that's where you build an automated process. Now imagine I am building this a real production environment. I don't want somebody sitting at desk every morning and saying, hey Ravi, can you run the data flow? No. So I will create a pipeline. Inside my pipeline I can add my data flow activity. Now my pipeline can control when the data flow runs, and I can build a larger process around it. For example, first I will ingest the raw data, then I will run the data flow, then maybe a notebook will come in the picture, then I will send a notification for the process, and then I will move from manual data transformation to automated data engineering. Okay, Microsoft Learning module explicitly cover integrating Genflow with data pipelines, and I'm going to share that link also at the reference where you can go through that. Okay, so after completing this step, the bigger question which comes is, when would I use Dataflow Gen2? So as a thumb rule, remember, if I have a transformation that can be handled comfortably using Power Query, Dataflow Gen2 is a good option. So what are the example? Filtering, cleaning, merging, appending, aggregating, maybe creating calculated columns, creating a new column, custom column, standardizing data, maybe your data format, you need to enforce a particular data format. But if my transformation becomes heavily code oriented, require complex Spark processing, I would start looking at the notebook or the code first approach. So don't think Dataflow Gen2 is the replacement of everything. It is for lightweight process. You need to choose the correct Fabric tool for the job. Okay. So some of the interview tips, or if you are preparing for DP 700 Fabric Data Engineering certification, there are few things you need to take care of. First, Dataflow Gen2 is used for data transformation. Okay. You do not have to answer like that. This is a very basic answer. Instead, try to explain the complete pattern. Dataflow Gen2, for example, provides a visual, low code Power Query experience like process for ingesting and transforming the data. Okay, then talk about the destination also. What kind of destination you can send the output to. Then you also need to explain the pipeline process. And finally, explain why would you choose Dataflow Gen2 versus a notebook. That will demonstrate that you have complete command on Fabric architecture. Okay, so let's go to the final summary. So what we have seen in this video is we started with the raw sales and order data. We created a Dataflow Gen2. We connected to our source. We cleaned and transformed the data using Power Query. We merged additional business information. We configured a data destination, and finally we integrate the data flow into the pipeline so that the whole process can be automated. So remember, only one architecture from today's video is source, Dataflow Gen2, transform, lakehouse, pipeline, and then automation. So I hope this little video helped you to understand the process. I will see you in the next video, but do not forget to subscribe to my channel. I am Ravi Singh, and I will see you in the next Microsoft Fabric tutorial.